Hello there, Tarky here. Well, all that do last Wednesday, and for what? There's no surprise that Jeremy Hunt's autumn statement was not well received in Parliament, the media, or the country as a whole. Both the political right and left were made really quite unhappy, although only the left is based in reality. The right-wing Tory supporting media is beset by a wailing and gnashing of teeth. Already there are hints of rebellion from the Conservative Party. The right and far right of the Conservative Party are opposed on principle to tax rises. It's a theology more than rationality. The usual tropes have been deployed. Here's some Brexiteer examples. Esther McVeigh thinks there's other options. She doesn't really list them and therefore is unlikely to vote for the budget. John Redwood wants asylum seekers' hotels defunded, anti-driver road changes halted, the Bank of England bond buying quantitative easing programme halted, even though that's because of the Truss errors, and he supported Liz Truss. Richard Drax claims tax on businesses and workers will stifle, quote, growth, even though the Tories haven't managed real growth in a decade. Jacob Rees-Mogg, yes, really, somehow still believes all problems could be solved by, quote, efficiencies of government. It's really difficult to know what the point of Jacob Rees-Mogg is. It's a good job he's no longer in the cabinet, etc., etc., etc. For the more rational left, the budget is dire in different ways. The Institute for Fiscal Studies points to a number of own goals leading up to this situation, including reduced investment spending by successive governments, to be fair, reduced vocational and further education spending. Likewise, the utter pointlessness of Brexit, entirely free of any benefit to our trade or international standing, and the totally misguided Truss-Kwarteng fiscal event. The budget makes some cosmetic changes for higher earners, such as a change to the top rate of tax and to the removal of the Truss-Kwarteng, removal of the 40p bracket. It also removes the banker's bonus tax, as promised by Truss and Kwarteng. It reduces the bank surcharge on profits from 8 to 3% at a time when rate rises boost their profits hugely. It's imposing a stealth tax rise by freezing personal allowances and tax bans now until 2028. There would have been a chance to help the poorest with perhaps a rise in the basic allowance balanced with adjustments to rates and bonus bands further up the income scale, but no. It has raised benefits and pensions in line with inflation, but only from next April, plus made an increase in the minimum wage. It's promised a form of ongoing energy bill relief, but a further rise in the overall price cap. It's offered some spending increases for health and education, but not enough by any means. Health, for example, is probably only half that needed right now. Well, and once again, the social care bill, promised in the 2019 manifesto, is kicked down the road. Many of the departmental budget cuts announced don't even take place for over 2 years, effectively deferred until well after the next election. At best, that's a gamble. The hoped for growth may simply not occur, or another crisis rear its head. Either Hunt and Sunak believe something will turn up, a mantra of British politics for far too long now, or they know and expect they'll lose the next election. It's very likely, and quite cynically have an excuse to use this to immediately attack the Labour government. Credibility of those put-off cuts is called into question by both the Institute for Fiscal Studies and the Resolution Foundation, with huge spending reductions needed to balance the books on current figures by 2027 to 28. Both bodies forecast yet another lost decade of income growth for ordinary people. And, once again, the Tory party favoured its wealthy donors' interests over those of the citizens of the UK, with almost no real alignment for taxation of unearned income where money flows to money. As discussed in earlier videos, general tax rises were certainly necessary to fund public services to levels most people want. The Tory right is bleating about the greatest tax burden ever, but I'll state again, as a nation we are below the OECD taxation average. However, instead of collecting more, and more fairly, from those whose wealth continues to far outstrip the rest of us, the greatest burden falls, as usual, to those whom it's easiest to collect from, both in terms of the systems themselves and for the safeguarding of continued Tory funding by those rich donors. It almost makes you think that it's time to start a little revolution. Of course, the government's latest crime bills are doing their best to make it illegal to offer up any protest whatsoever, even allowing police to stop those they consider making too much noise. But I can't help thinking that peaceful protest is going to have to be the way forward in this case. As usual, nothing has changed. Once again, ordinary people bear the burden for other wealthier people's significant errors. Chin chin. Do you hear the people singing a song of angry men? It is